right? So I'm going to go ahead and create an else if here. Else if the transaction type, the lowercase is equal to basically the same thing here, is equal to purchase in small caps. Right, then you want to go ahead and do the same thing here to calculate the commission, because we've been told the commission basically. So I'll do this again, do this. We've been told here that for the purchase, it starts here. If the transaction was a purchase, so it tells us if it was a purchase. If the transaction was a purchase at the commodity exchange, right? So if they typed in E and it was a purchase, I mean E is the commodity exchange, right? So if it was at a commodity exchange E and it was a purchase, then the commission rate is 6.3%, right? So 6.3%. If the purchase is made at the cotton exchange, if the purchase, is made at the cotton exchange C, then the commission rate is 4.3%. If a purchase is made at the Mercantile Exchange, so if a purchase is made at a Mercantile Exchange, the commission rate is 5.7% of the amount. Okay. One more thing I want to point out before I just move on. Now over here we can see that we are having an integer division here, right? If you punch in 5 divided by 100 in the calculator, you're going to get 0.05. But Java is going to consider this 5 divided by 100 as an integer division, because both operands are integers. The 5 is an integer, 100 is an integer. And when you have a division where both operands are integers, when the 5 is an integer and when the 100 is an integer, or basically what's on the left is an integer and what's on the right is an integer, when you have a situation like that, Java is going to consider that as an integer division. Instead of giving you this answer, which is 0.05, because Java is considering this as an integer, it's going to give you only the integer part of this question, of this answer, and drop anything after the decimal point. So instead of this giving you 0.05, it's going to go ahead and give you 0, because it's considering this as an integer division. So although this calculation gives you 0.05, Java is going to return 0 because it's considering this as an integer division. The only way to go around this is at least one of these values has to be a double. See, over here we're fine. This is a double, so we're going to get the correct answer. This is a double, we're going to get the correct answer. The same for all these. But for this one, at least one of them has to be a double. Either the 5 has to be a double or the 100 has to be a double. If both of them are doubles, that's fine. At least one of them has to be a double. We can use typecasting to convert one of them to doubles, right? And the way I'm going to convert the 5 to a double, or basically cast the 5 to a double, right? I can also do it for 100. I'm just choosing to do the typecast the 5, and you can typecast the 5 to a double by typing the word double in parentheses in front of the 5. This way. So double in parentheses in front of the 5, and then now this is going to be it's going to be, when it's running, it's going to be read as 5.0 divided by 100, and that's going to give you the correct value, which is 0.05. So we fixed that. All right, so now we have our values. All we have to do is print it out, right? So I'm going to go ahead and use a system.out.printf format, printf to basically display this. I'm using printf because I want some of the values formatted. So I'm going to go ahead and create my format string, right? And the system.out.printf takes 2 arguments, right? Well, not necessarily. It's 2 arguments, right? And the second arguments can be a lot of arguments passed in there. So it takes 2 arguments. The first argument is what your format string, how you want it formatted, and over here is basically what is going to replace some of the placeholders which you're about to define here. So you understand it once I do it. So I'm going to go ahead and create the string and then display something nice and say, first let's start with a transaction type. So transaction type, I'm going to now create a placeholder. I'm going to type in %s for a string, meaning this %s is a placeholder, meaning a string value is going to replace this placeholder. It's a placeholder. Anything like percentage %s, it's a placeholder. Meaning a string value is going to replace it. What the value we put here are going to replace these placeholders respectively. But let's finish the whole string, and then we'll make more sense as we do this. So transaction type is going to be equal to this string, which we're going to specify. Okay, it's going to replace this percentage %s. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a new line character. So the \n together is a new line character. When the interpreter sees this \n, it takes the position from where it's at to the next line. And anything that comes after this new line character is displayed on that next line. So the new line, the \n basically together creates the new line character. So transaction type percentage %s, something is going to replace this, create a new line character. The next thing is going to be transaction location. And I'm also going to type in another percentage %s. Another value is going to replace this placeholder, right? So the arguments that, or the values or the arguments I pass in here are going to replace these placeholders respectively. They're going to replace them respectively. So the first argument I put here is going to replace this percentage %s. The second argument I put after that is going to replace this percentage %s. And then, so that's how they're going to work. So transaction type is this, transaction location is this, creates another new line character. The next thing is going to be amount. Amount is going to be equal to percentage %f. Now I'm using f because that value is going to be a float. Okay, the value that's going to replace this placeholder, this percentage %f, is going to be a float, and that's why I use f. We can add more formatting to this, but for now I'm just going to leave it like this, as just a placeholder that a float value is going to replace. So once I'm done with amount, I want to create a new line character and then display the last thing, which is going to be commission. And commission is also going to be equal to a float, percentage %f. Okay, what is going to replace this placeholder is going to be a float. So the first argument I type here is going to replace percentage %s, okay, respectively. The second argument is going to replace this. The third argument is going to replace this. The fourth argument is going to replace this. Okay, they replace these placeholders respectively. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and break it, as I don't want to exceed this line. So I'm going to break it somewhere around here by hitting enter. And then the first argument that's going to replace this s, this percentage %s here, is going to be the value stored in transaction type. Okay, transaction type here. So I'm going to copy it and then just paste it here. Now the transaction type can be a mix of it can be disorganized. So the user can type in sale like the way we did, like this, and then like this, okay, or even like this, So we don't want to display it in a string like that, right? So let's go ahead and convert all of this to lowercase, so it looks like this. No matter what the user types, if the user types in this, because we are converting it to lowercase, it's going to look like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and once we display this string, the transaction type, let's go ahead and convert it also to lowercase. So dot to lowercase. And then the next argument we are going to pass in is the transaction location, and we have it stored in this variable. So transaction location. Also, we want the transaction location, right? Remember, we had to convert the transaction location to uppercase. So the user, that means the user can type in, let's say, E for the I think it was a commodity exchange, right? So the user can type in a small letter E. We don't want to display it E. We want to display it like a capital E in the display, because that's what was in the question. So let's also go ahead and convert that to uppercase, because if the user types in a small letter E, we go ahead and convert it to capital uppercase. If the user types in uppercase, it stays uppercase. Uppercase converted to uppercase is still uppercase. So transaction location dot to uppercase. Okay, now the third argument that's going to replace this, the third placeholder here is amount, right? So amount over here, we have it stored in user amount here. So now the third argument is going to be user amount here. And then the fourth argument is going to be the commission, which we have stored in the variable commission, right? So commission here. Now we're done. Before we start, commission is going to be 0. So let's initialize it to 0. Otherwise, we might have a complaint. that it's not initialized. It needs to know what it is, initially. So I'm initializing it to 0 initially. Okay. All right. And then now we're done. So let's go ahead and compile this and see if it works. So compile it. I'm going to save it here in other programs as Brokerage Commission. Let me create a folder for that and then call it Brokerage Commission. I don't want to mention the person's name because I was thinking of putting the person's name in the file, but that's not necessary. I'll figure out a way to keep track of that myself. Maybe with my personal files, just so I know which program belongs to who, or maybe not. I'll just do this. Maybe in the future I would just know. I just like to know who asked this question. I don't know, but for now I'll just leave it like this. And then I have the comment history on YouTube, so I'll be able to check that also. But it'll be good to just know who asked this question, not for anything, just to know who what program belongs to who. But this actually belongs to everyone. So all right, so Brokerage Commission is a folder, and then I'll create this program as Brokerage Commission.java. All right, so it compiled without any errors, so that's good. Now let's run this and see what happens. So is the transaction a sale or purchase? I'm going to type in a sale. I can even do this. I can even type in SALE this way, or SALE this way, right? If this is converted to lowercase, it's the same as this the word sale. Okay, so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to hit enter. Where was the transaction made? I'm going to type in E for commodity exchange. Okay, the user should enter E for the commodity exchange, and I'm typing. It said the user should type in E as in capital E, but I typed in small e. But remember, we were converting the small e to uppercase, the transaction location to uppercase, and then comparing with the uppercase E. So this will be converted to uppercase, just like this will be converted to lowercase before being compared. So no matter what you type, it's still going to be fine. All right, please enter the amount I'm going to type in. Let's say 57,000. Oh yeah, 57,000. Let's say 567. Oops, 57,064 dollars, and then hit enter, and then see I typed in sale, but I was able to convert it to lowercase when we were displaying it down here. So transaction type is a sale. Transaction location is an E. Even though I typed in a small e, it was able to know that it was an E. Now you can modify the program to actually display the full location, which is commodity exchange. You can actually have it do that. Amount was 57064.0000, and I will format this in a second. Commission is 2853. Okay. So that's basically going to be a percentage of it. We'll check and cross check. Cross check to see if it's correct. But then now let's focus on formatting these values, right? So there's a good reason why we use these format specifiers. Okay. So that means we can easily format it. Now these two strings, I want to leave them the same. That's fine. But then these two values, they are monetary values. So I want to format them with $ and commas where necessary. Just so it looks like a real dollar money amount. Okay, a monetary amount. So the placeholder for the user amount is this third one here. I can specify how many decimal places I want. I want to format it to, like, let's say 2 decimal places like this, right? So it's going to look something like this. I want to format it to 2 decimal places. So the way I do that is I type in 0.2 in between the percentage and then the F. So 0.2 means round it to 2 decimal places. If I wanted to round it to 3 decimal places, I would say 0.3, like this. But I wanted to format it to 2 decimal places, so I'll say 0.2 in between the percentage and then the F. Okay, now because it's a monetary value, I also want commas where necessary. I want it to be able to automatically put commas where necessary. If this amount is $1 million, I want it to read 1,000,000,000. I want it to automatically put commas where necessary. So the way I do that is I type in a comma before the precision of 0.2. Okay, all in between the percentage and the F. So a comma before the precision. All right, and that's going to automatically put commas, where necessary. And also I want a $ in front of it, so I'm going to put the $ in front of it this way. in front of everything else, in front of the whole percentage F, comma 0.2 stuff. So here, all right, so because I want the commission also formatted the same way, I'm just going to copy this and then change this whole format specified to that. And then now let's compile this, run it. Okay, I'm going to type in a sale this way. Where was the transaction made? I'm going to type in E. Amount, I'm going to enter 56874, just random numbers. Okay, so sale E. Now you can see that it's formatted well with commas where necessary, a $sign in front of all of them, rounded to 2 decimal places. So let's check the math and see if it's correct. Now the question said if over here, if the amount was a sale and was made at the commodity exchange. Now it's over here. It was a sale. It was a sale, and it was made at the location E, because the user said, the question said the user should type in E for commodity exchange. So if it was a sale and was made at the commodity exchange, right, the commission rate is 5% of the amount. So the commission rate is going to be 5% of this amount. So let's check to see if that's correct. 5% is 5 divided by 100 of 57874. Oops. 5 divided by 100. Okay, of 57874. And we can see that that's 2893.70 cents. So $2,893.70. You can see that's correct. We can try another value for the for if it was a sale. So let's try another one. If let's try a sale. Let's try the location. Let's say C. Enter the amount. I'm going to type in, let's say, $576, and it was a sale. The transaction location was a C. Over here it said, if a sale is made at the Mercantile Exchange. Now the Mercantile Exchange is a C, right? Because the question said the user should type in C for the C is for the New York Cotton Exchange. All right, so over here it says if a sale is made at the New York Cotton Exchange, so C is for the New York Cotton Exchange, the commission rate is 3.75% of the amount. Now this is the amount, right? So 3.75% of 576. So 3.7, actually not 3.75, 3.7% of $576 is equal to 21.31, because we rounded to 2 decimal places, so this has been rounded to 31. So we can see that it's correct for the commission. So we can see that it's able to tell which location and then use those values. Now let's check maybe one for the purchase. And so I'm going to run this again. I'm going to type in purchase. I'm going to even make it this way, purchase, and just to test it out. So purchase, still purchase. Where was the transaction made? I'm going to type in M for the Mercantile. Amount 5,768, or even 10,895. And then we can see the transaction type is a purchase. The transaction location is M. The question said the user should type in M for the Mercantile Exchange. Now it said if a purchase, now we know it's a purchase, right? If a purchase is made at the Mercantile Exchange for M, the commission rate is 5.75% of the amount. So 5.75% of 10,895. Oops, I closed it. 5.75. No, I keep on saying 5.75. 5.7%. Okay, off 10,895 is equal to, my battery is low. It's good, I'm almost done. Okay, close. It's equal to $621.02, basically, because this was rounded to 2 decimal places, so 2 cents. So yes, so we can see this is working also, and it should work for all of them. All right, so we're done. Okay, if anyone has any questions, please comment down below, and I'll do everything to respond to them. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and then I'll see you next time with the next program. All right, bye-bye.